Money problems such as debt or redundancy. Mental health and money are connected. Mental health problems can make it harder to earn and manage your money, and debt can trigger or worsen conditions such as anxiety, depression, and stress. Why and how do people get into debt? There is a common misunderstanding that people find themselves in debt due to living an excessive lifestyle or going wild in the aisles with credit cards. The truth is that unemployment and redundancy are the most common triggers for debt problems and can happen to anyone, no matter what their attitude to money may be. Life changes such as losing your job, mental or physical health problems, or separating from your partner can mean that you struggle to pay your household bills. Having to adjust to such a financial change can be difficult. How can mental health problems affect your finances? There are many reasons why mental ill health can make it hard to manage your money. If you're depressed, you might not have the energy or motivation to keep track of your money. If you're going through a manic episode, you may make rash or unwise decisions with your spending. If you need time off work or a hospital stay, you may be faced with a sudden reduction in income and difficulty keeping up with your bills. Some mental health problems and conditions such as dementia may make it difficult or impossible for you to make decisions about money. The ability to make decisions is known as mental capacity. If you don't have mental capacity, someone else may have to make decisions on your behalf. How can debt affect your mental health? Throughout 2020 and into 2021, there have been grave concerns about the effects of isolation on people's mental health. Charities and social groups have come together to minimize this, with volunteers offering phone calls and a place for people to reach out when they need interaction. However, as we approach the easing of social restrictions and enter the new normal, we must recognize the impact that debt is having on the mental health of a large proportion of households. Debt can affect more than just your bank balance. It can affect relationships, social lives, and even the mental health of our children, who we must remember are living in debt along with us. A study from the College of Psychiatrists found that half of all adults with a debt problem are also living with mental ill health. This ranged from a consistent feeling of anxiety and low mood to a diagnosed mental health condition. Debt can make you feel anxious, especially if you don't have support from friends or family or from your creditors. Debt can be a considerable burden, made worse by dealing with it alone. Worrying about debt can affect your sleep. Losing out on a good night's sleep can not only affect your mood and energy levels, but it can also affect your ability to work or have good relationships with friends and family. All of these things can further add to your debt problem. Questions to ask yourself if you think you may have a debt problem. Do I often feel anxious when thinking about how I will manage my repayments? Am I struggling to make, or do I routinely miss the minimum payments towards utility bills, credit cards, or rent? Do I ignore letters from creditors? Do I avoid calls from unknown numbers in case it's a creditor calling? Am I unable to set aside money for an unplanned financial emergency such as redundancy, car expenses, or emergency repairs? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you may want to consider getting help. One of the consequences of the financial crisis is the increasing number of families falling into debt. Reliance on credit helped create the debt problems of recent years, but families are now turning to credit once again, for example, payday loans, to alleviate the pressure they're under. As ever, it's families, especially those on low incomes, who are bearing the brunt of these economic woes. While benefit payments and relatively stable employment mitigated the worst effects of debt historically, the impact of COVID-19 and the more uncertain nature of modern employment have altered the dynamic regarding family finances. For example, the rise in benefit cuts and increased self-employment, to name but a few, have contributed to a less secure working environment. With household income reducing and expenditures steadily increasing, many families are falling into a spiral of debt they find difficult to control. One of the effects of this income fluctuation is families experiencing sudden and unforeseen drops in wages that create a temporary crisis in household budgets. A recent study shows that 56% of parents in debt have had to cut back significantly on spending to ensure that their children don't go without. Sudden income changes. By definition, tariffs limited security in certain types of employment where hours can be cut, or employment scrapped altogether on minimal notice. Although such contracts may benefit a student or young school leaver, they're unlikely to be suitable for a parent who urgently needs to pay the mortgage and fund school uniforms. Of course, tariffs nothing new in this. Sudden changes in circumstances, redundancy, separation, illness, etc. have always precipitated debt problems. However, the changing nature of modern employment has made such scenarios much more prevalent. Those on low and middle incomes are more likely to be affected. Other factors like increasing rents, utility bills, and general hikes in the cost of living have also added to the problem. It's an issue that's not going to go away either. Incomes are set to fluctuate for the foreseeable future, with families and legislators struggling to adapt to a changing world. The effects of debt on families. 3.6 million families have been pushed into debt since the beginning of 2020. That's almost half of all households with children suffering financially and having to borrow money to survive the economic effects of COVID-19. A disproportionately high number of debt relief clients are families. While couples and single people also struggle with money worries, the problem always seems more acute for those with children. Parents tackling the burden of family debt feel the strain that little bit more as they bear the responsibility of feeding multiple mouths. At Debt Movement, our clients aren't statistics. They're real people who are struggling to feed and clothe their families in a rapidly changing society. Throughout 2020 and into 2021, there have been grave concerns about the effects of isolation on people's mental health. Debt can affect more than just your bank balance. It can affect relationships, social lives, and even the mental health of our children, who we must remember are living in debt along with us. Debt and children. For children, debt can undermine their relationships with their peers and may mean missing out on socializing or school trips, leaving them feeling isolated, excluded, and ashamed. In some cases, they are going without basics such as food, clothing, or heating. They can feel a sense of failure for not being able to help their parents deal with their debts, leaving them with lower self-confidence and self-worth. This video article is sponsored by Signal Health Group, Assisted Care at Home, and Signal Health Group franchise. If you're searching for personal care, home health, or hospice care, please reach out to us to discuss the costs and the coverage you may receive from your current health insurance providers. We would be happy to help you stay safe, healthy, and comfortable in your home for as long as possible. For those who are interested in business opportunities across the U.S., Signal Health Group is a franchise. With the number of older individuals growing every day, choosing to run a home care agency is a wise idea. Learn more about our services offered across the United States and business opportunities at signalhg.com or call franchise 800-953-6183.